Hello, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
स्टार्ट करने का स्टार्ट करो.
Hey, Vivek Singh sir has not joined, right?
No, he has joined. We have made him panelist.
But I can't see him. Is it HP? No.
No, not HP. Doctor.
No, he is
Vivek.
not seen in panelist.
Yeah, but
Sir,
we have.
sir, you are talking, sir.
Hello?
Hello.
Huh?
Yes.
No, he is not seen in the list of panelists.
We have made him, sir.
Okay, got it. Yes, he is there. Yes, fine.
Yes. So, good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome, Dr. Vivek Singh. Welcome, Dr. Dhale, sir. Welcome, Dr. Nanoti, sir. We are starting the program now. So, over to Bhatoi madam, who is going to conduct the whole proceedings today.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, all the participants, panelists, dignitaries for one day. For one day faculty development program. As it is 1 minute, should I start?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. As aptly quoted by Kofi Annan, our biggest challenge in this new century is to take an idea that seems abstract and turn that idea into a reality for all the world's people. It is sustainable development. I, Dr. Swapna Ghatore, welcome you all in one-day online faculty development program on green initiatives and sustainable engineering. Our tradition is to take blessings of Goddess Saraswati, so we tune in with Saraswati Vandana.
Who's sharing?
Play with sound.
Sorry for the delay. We'll get back to the Vandana soon.
Okay. Um, though this is online program, we would like to give floral welcome to our guests and dignitaries virtually. Our Director Engineering, LTJSS, Dr. VM Nanoti, welcome today's Chief Guest, Dr. Vivek K.N. Singh, Vice President, Filtrex Technology Private Limited.
Welcome, welcome, Dr. Vivek Singh, for this faculty development one-day faculty workshop. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yes.
Dr. Swarda Mote ma'am welcomes Dr. Vivek Nanoti sir, Director Engineering LTJSS and also Project Leader EGEA.
Welcome, Dr. Vivek Nanoti, sir, and thanks for being always there for the proper and able guidance.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
To conduct this program.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Manju Soni ma'am welcomes our principal, Dr. S.A. Dhale, Priyadarshini College of Engineering, Nagpur. Dr. Swapna Ghatore would like to welcome Vice Principal, Dr. G.M. Asutkar, sir, Priyadarshini College of Engineering, Nagpur. Welcome, sir. Dr. Vivek Bhange is welcoming Dr. Manju Soni, Project Coordinator, EGEA. Dr. Aishwarya Kopulwar welcomes Dr. Swarda Mote, Member EGEA and Coordinator of Faculty Development Program.
Welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much, Aishwarya.
Thank you, ma'am. I call upon Dr. Swarda Mote, ma'am, Coordinator of Faculty Development Program, to brief about the FDP. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Swapna. So a very good morning to one and all present here. Today's chief guest, respected Dr. Vivek K.N. Singh, Vice President of Filtrex Technologies Private Limited, Bangalore. Filtrex Technologies. Respected Dr. Vivek Nanoti, Director Engineering, LTJSS and EGA Project Head. Dr. S.A. Dhale, Principal, PCE Nagpur. Dr. G.A. Masutkar, Vice Principal, PCE Nagpur. Dr. Manju Soni ma'am, EGA Project Coordinator. All members of EGA team, organizing team of Chemical Engineering Department, various deans and co-deans, HODs of various departments, and all my dear participants from various colleges all over India and few from abroad, and my dear student participants who have participated in the workshop today, parallel workshop. So I welcome you all for this grand gathering here for the inaugural session of one-day online FDP on green initiatives and sustainable engineering under the aegis of EU-funded project entitled Enhancing Green Economy in 3 Asian Countries under the leadership of Dr. Vivek Nanoti, who is the project head of the EGA project. I am delighted to have this great gathering for discussions on current thrust area, which is green initiatives and sustainable engineering. And as we are nearing 2030, and this milestone is an important one globally for all countries and for our Mother Earth to be sustainable one. So now let us try to understand what is green initiative and what is sustainable engineering. So a healthy planet is a necessary condition to guarantee decent work, productive enterprises, and sustainable livelihoods. More than 1.2 billion jobs depend on a stable environment and ecosystem. Green initiative means increasing efforts to improve and support energy efficiencies of mechanical and lighting equipment, improve air quality, increase water conservation, higher concentration of waste avoidance, increasing recycling streams, and engaging catering in environmental friendly practices. The Green Initiative aims to scale up the knowledge, policy response, and capacity to manage a just transition toward greener economies and a sustainable future. The Green Initiative is also the conduit for actively greening all human activities and operations, building on the environmental sustainability. And then, what is sustainable engineering? It is the process of designing or operation systems such that they use energy and resources sustainably. In other words, at a rate that does not compromise the natural environment or the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainable engineering refers to the integration of social, environmental, and economic considerations into the product, the process, and energy systems design. Sustainable engineering principles, when considered at an early stage, not only can make a huge impact on the society, but also save time, money, and future-proof businesses value chain by minimizing the threats and maximizing the opportunities of this new changing world. In 2015, 195 nations agreed with the United Nations that they can change the world for the better. This can only be accomplished by bringing together their respective governments, businesses, media, institutions of higher education, and local NGOs to improve the lives of people in their country by the year 2030. So 2030 is an important milestone as a global scenario. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future too. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are an urgent call for action by the countries developed or developing in a global partnership and are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. They are recognized that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. In order to make 2030 Agenda a reality, broad ownerships of the SDGs must translate into a strong commitment by all the stakeholders to implement the global goals. Education for sustainable development and awareness is internationally recognized as an important mechanism for sustainable processes and a transformation towards an economy that conserves resources and acts environmentally sound. With this in mind, we have organized this one-day FDP for academicians and research scholars and a parallel one-day workshop for our students too. We are happy here to share that we got enormous response to this FDP with around 100 faculty registrations from more than 45 different colleges from all over India like Pune, Punjab, Kerala, Aurangabad, Surat, Ahmedabad, Rajasthan, and few entries from Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur also. And from various colleges like NITs, IITs, private engineering colleges, other private colleges, freelancers, and also few editors have joined. So we have here a mixed bag of audience of students, research scholars, and engineers and non-engineers, scientists, research scholars, and many. Around more than 160 plus student registrations of chemical engineering and biotechnology department have also been registered. The resource persons are also very dedicated scientists from Niri, Nagpur, with a large experience and expertise in the relevant field, and an industrial tycoon as a chief guest with his expert talk on measuring sustainable development in this inaugural session, which is Dr. Vivek K.N. Singh. So I request all participants to attend all the sessions, which are very interesting and interactive, to meet the deliberations of the program. So thank you all for being here and enjoy the whole day. Thank you all again.
Thank you, ma'am. I request Dr. S. K. Dhale, Principal, Priyadarshini College of Engineering, to address the gathering. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And good morning to one and all. Priyadarshini College of Engineering, under the aegis of EU-funded project, enhancing green economy in 3 Asia countries by Department of Chemical Engineering of Priyadarshini College of Engineering, organized this one-day faculty development program on green initiatives and sustainable engineering. The chief guest is today's program, Dr. Vivek K.N. Singh, sir. Welcome, sir. Our own young and dynamic director, Dr. Vivek Nanoti, Director Engineering LTJSS, Vice Principal of PCE, Dr. G.M. Asudkar, sir. The program coordinator, Ms. Mote ma'am, deans, HODs, senior faculty members, teaching staff, and delegates from Pan India, those who are for this one-day faculty program. I welcome all of you in this particular one-day faculty development program on green initiative. Friend, since being a person from civil engineering, I'm very much concerned about this green initiative. If you see the objectives of the green initiative, the green initiative objectives are to reduce the overall impact on environment, health, natural resources, and ecosystem, and thereby to save the energy, to save water, to save resources, to reduce pollution, to cut emission, and to reduce waste generation. Now, this waste generation, when we talk about, it may be e-waste or domestic waste, because nowadays the e-waste is became a huge problem. Because when we talk about the green electronics, so a lot of e-waste that is coming out from the electronic side, because we know that nowadays everything we see in our house, in our domestic purpose, there are so many gadgets which we are using, and if you see their lifespan and life period, hardly gadgeted we use for year, 2 year, and a couple of years, and then we throw it out, and it became a huge e-waste generation problem. And then disposal and incineration of this e-waste is also a huge problem. If you talk about the general feature of this green initiative, the efficient use of energy, water, and resources are very much important. We have to be equally judicious about renewable energy and solar energy, use of this energy in our day-to-day life. Pollution and waste reduction measure to be taken, thereby enabling the reuse and recycling of the waste that we are, particularly I am talking about the domestic waste. Whatever the water we are using as a domestic waste, we can reuse and recycle that water for our gardening purpose and for other purpose. At the same time, use of good material that are non-toxic material, ethical and sustainable. So all these things to be kept in the mind when we talk about green initiative. Friend, in this green initiative, we also talked about the sustainable engineering. Now, when we talk about the sustainable engineering, we all have to keep in your mind, because whatever we know that the world is changing so fast, and there are so many things. If you go a decade back and right now, if you see, so it's a sea change in our day-to-day life, in our what we can say, the lifestyle that we are nowadays using, and because of that, whatever the natural resources are there. There are so many natural resources. If you take example of petrol, even cement, sand, and metals, and so many things, there nowadays depletion of these things are going on. So we have to think about the sustainable energy, sustainable material, sustainable things, which can be self-generated, and there should not be any deficiency of these particular things in the what we can say in the environment. So all these issues are really required to be addressed. And I have gone through the panel of the experts, those who are talking on this particular in this particular workshop. Tomorrow also, today also we have good expert. Dr. Vivek Singh is also there to talk on this topic. So I think it will be better that I should not speak much more on this when experts are there. So ऐसा हो जाएगा कि फिर सूरज को दिया दिखाने वाली बात हो जाएगी. So with this, I sum up with my this word, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now, I request Dr. Vivek Nanoti, Project Leader EGEA, Director Engineering LTJSS, to brief the gathering about European-funded EGEA project. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Swapna. Very good morning to all of you, all the dignitaries, participants, professors from various academia, industry, from India, out of India. A very warm welcome to this wonderful one-day workshop. Friends, 2019 January, we got a wonderful project enhancing green economy into 3 Asian countries. What are those 3 Asian countries? It's India, it's Nepal, and it's Kyrgyzstan. And we are 14 partners, through which, of course, our college got around 55-60 lakhs of grants. But the important thing is we could partner with 5 good European universities who are actually working into this area of waste management, green economy. And then when we thought of having a workshop, one-day faculty development workshop on that, and when Dr. Swarda came to me and told me ki kaun chief guest rahega, so I immediately, there was only one option in our mind, a very widely traveled, extremely learned, outstanding researcher in the field of water treatment, waste management, and that too with an industrial R&D exposure. Very warm welcome to Dr. Vivek Singh, sir, for consenting for this, being chief guest and being part of this inaugural function, and for your session. We are looking forward for that. Thank you so much for that. So perfectly apt person. I mean, I know him since 30 years and the kind of dedication he is into the R&D, it is amazing. Friends, now it's about EGEA. EGEA, Dr. Dhale, Dr. Asutkar, Dr. Swarda Mote madam, the project manager, Dr. Manju Soni ma'am, anchor Dr. Swapna, all of have taken a lot of efforts, and we've been doing such workshops which are need for the society. We are doing it for society. EGEA project, we are committed for creating green advocates. We are promoting green initiatives. Not only this, but into last 2.5 years, we have developed 15 courses which are with ECTS concern, and now we are converting it to our Indian, credit system also for, and each course is of 120 hours. So to all 45 institution participants who are involved here, I'm inviting all of you that if you are interested in going up with this course, let us shake hands. And these are 120 hours course for students of UG, PG, and PhD students. And the main area is green economy for business, green economy for law and governance, green economy for environment and sustainability, and management of green economy. So these are 5 areas wherein we have developed 15 courses, out of which I am very proud that our 6 courses were accepted out of 15, which are developed by Priyadarshini. So Priyadarshini has developed 6 courses and all are being run into various European countries, Nepali countries, and Kyrgyzstan. And of course, they are, we have started running those courses. We are into final stage, and all these 15 modules are now available on a Moodle platform, which is developed by University of Nicosia. So this is the very purpose, that to penetrate these green initiatives. We have a green club developed wherein my students, hundreds of students, work as in green advocates, reach to the various sectors of society, including corporations, schools, colleges, small kids, slums, just to percolate the message, the penetration of green initiatives, the importance of green, and that is the very purpose, the dissemination of these green initiatives through this green EGEA project. We have developed few lifelong courses on green skills and green initiatives for sustainable development, environmental laws for social responsibility, waste management practices and impact on health. I mean, there are lifelong courses, there are 15 important courses. This is what we have contributed through enhancing green economy project. I am extremely happy that we could do this. This project will end by September 2022. I'll request all participants who are interested. We have developed an amazing green laboratory, which is also funded by European Union. Please do visit. It is with ultra modern facilities available with us. So I request all participants, so let us shake hands, let us work together, let us create some good programs, initiatives to see to it that sustainable things really happen. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity to talk about my close to heart project, EGEA. It will end in September 2022, but our 8 of the faculty got amazing opportunity to get trained on all these 15 topics. And I think my 8 of my faculty have already undergone 11 training courses by European University. So that was a benefit to us. And we really want to share this benefit, to spread this benefit to all the various sectors of the community. Once again, I thank for giving me an opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Vivek Singh, sir, for being part of this inaugural session. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Sapna.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for informing everything about EGA in brief to the audience. Now, we are blessed here to have Dr. Vivek K. Singh as chief guest of today's faculty development program. He is presently working as Vice President, New Business Ventures with Filtrex Technologies Private Limited, a Mammoth Water Berkshire Hathaway company in Bangalore. Earlier, General Manager of Technology Partnership with Eureka Forbes Limited. He had an entrepreneurial stint in Nigeria for 10 years between 2000 to 2010, making water and solid waste treatment, recovery and reuse projects. He is our own from Nagpur because his schooling is from St. John's High School, Hislop College and Institute of Science of Nagpur, and PhD in nuclear chemistry from RTM Nagpur University, continuing his education from Institute of Hydrological Education, Delft, Netherlands, and Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. He has worked on various projects under the agenda of 2 million liter per day water recycling plant in textile industry in Nigeria, use of coconut shell, activated carbon as a green and sustainable material for residential water purification, got sustainability index from Water Quality Association US, passionate for water recycling and socio-economically sustainable industrial development. I welcome Dr. Vivek K. Singh to give his keynote address on measuring sustainable development. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the one day of faculty development program.
Thank you, Dr. Swapna. Thank you, Dr. Vivek Nanodi, sir, Dr. Dhale, sir, Dr. Mote, madam. Thank you very much for inviting me to this program. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, yes.
So, at the outset, I would like to, congratulate you on running this excellent program on a very, very relevant and how to say, a very, very important subject, which is evolving rapidly. Sustainable development as a field started very recently. It is not even 50 years old field, but it has established itself as one of the most important lines of studies. And as we will see, new avenues are opening up in this line day in and day out. And it is heartening to note that there are courses now being run by our own universities to exploit the opportunities that will be coming out. Please, during the course of my talk, if you feel like you should ask a question, feel free to ask the questions. You can send it through chat, you can raise a hand, and we will come back to you. I would greatly appreciate if the discussion is multi-way and not only one way. And I look forward to your questions at the end of the talk. I will share my screen here and we can start there. So whenever we talk about sustainable development, it is important for us to not only do the work that we are talking about, but keep on continuously measuring the work that we have done, so that we are able to understand what good we have done for the profits, for the people, and for the planet. The word sustainability means many things to many people. And the word sustainable is sometimes used very loosely to explain many things. I came across the word sustainable first from my father about 30 years back, when I started earning and I bought something very expensive. And he asked me that your salary is only so much, and how could you afford to buy something so expensive? And I told him, I bought it using credit card. And he asked me how you will pay. I said, on credit card, I can take loan against my future earnings and pay for this. So he told me that you may do it, but it is not a very sustainable thing to do. What if the future earnings are not there? What if you don't earn anything in future? So that is the first time I came across the word sustainable. Of course, I was young and I was thinking, what is my father saying? I mean, when am I going to not have earnings in future? As I grew older, I realized that there will be times when there will be no earnings in future. And so that was my introduction to the word sustainability. Then around 1987, United Nations commissioned a report through a World Commission on Environment and Development. It was called as Our Common Future Report. And it was chaired by a gentleman called Brundtland. He was the ex-prime minister of Norway. And he said that this report first time coined the word sustainable development in October 1987. And sustainable development was defined as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And I hope now you can make the correlation between what my father told me innocently and what this report by United Nations says, that development that can meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. We can always borrow from our future earnings, but then it means that our future earnings will be that much reduced. We can always borrow resources from our future, but it means that those resources will be that much less available to the next generation that comes. And that is what sustainable development targets. During the course of building this report, the committee, the World Commission on Environment and Development, came across several global challenges, and they focused on 6 of them. One was energy, one was population, one was food security, another one was loss of species and genetic resources. This is an engineering college, I believe, but still you must know that sustainable development involves a lot about the life around us, the flora and the fauna, the plants and the animals, even the insects and the microorganisms. Human settlements, which are increasing rapidly, and industry that is required to support these human settlements. And when this commission studied these challenges, it realized that these challenges, none of them can be studied in isolation, that they are all interrelated with one another in one way or the other. So they, when they studied this further, they understood what would sustainable development entail. So development can be of 3 types, they realized. Development can be environmental development, development can be economic development, and development can be social development. So when the development is environmental and economically beneficial, it is commonly known as a viable development. And I am showing this because it is a tendency amongst us to, use the word sustainable in as a exchangeable word with economic development or environmental development or etc. So when the development is environmental and socially acceptable, it is called as bearable development. When the development is socially and economically beneficial, it is called as equitable development, because society as well as industry benefit in it. Both of them have rise in their equity, so it becomes equitable development. But only when the development is bearable, equitable, and viable does it qualify as sustainable development. So a sustainable development is environmentally beneficial, economically beneficial, and socially beneficial to each and every stakeholder who is involved. And this is something that we should remember going ahead in our talk. Dr. Swarda, in her inaugural address, spoke about the Sustainable Development Goals. There are actually 17 of them that are identified, and 2030 is supposed to be the date by which United Nations expects most of its member country to make substantial, if not complete development, complete achievement on these goals. And they are listed over here. And green initiatives and social engineering and sustainable engineering and all those things, they contribute to meeting these sustainable development goals. However, I would not be talking about these goals. We would be rather discussing how to measure sustainability. Now, sustainability is a very esoteric idea. It is very difficult to, it is not something like meter or voltage or distance or sound, something which cannot be measured using how to say conventional physical or chemical measuring instruments. So these goals are big. If you look at these goals, zero hunger, I mean, how do you measure that? Decent economic growth, decent work for everybody. Very, very difficult to measure something like this. So these goals are big. These are esoteric goals. They are about billions of people. But our age-old wisdom tells us that something that cannot be measured cannot be improved. So how to measure what is mutually good for profits, people, and planet will be our theme going ahead in this talk. There are various methodologies that agencies pursued. One was called as triple bottom line reporting, in which people reported how their profits affected their people, the society, and the environment. There was the concept of beneficial corporation, the B corporation. There was a company's annual report, which consisted of paragraphs on conscious capitalism. But eventually in 2006, United Nations defined very clearly the principles for responsible investment into developmental projects. And these came under three specific criteria: environmental, social, and governance. And look at the very important missing term, economic. The word economic has been replaced by the word governance, and we will come to it later on. So these are generally a bundle of metrics to measure the impact of an organization's activity on the profits that the organization makes, how it makes those profits, the impact that organization has on environment around it, and also the impact of that organization on the society in which it is flourishing. So it is used by investors nowadays to evaluate whether a company or an organization. I use the word company very generally. So organization and company are practically same for the purpose of this discussion. So they are used by investors to evaluate whether an organization or a company is socially or environmentally responsible. And they are also used by strategists in the organization, whose job it is to shape the roadmap for the future of these organizations towards making them profitable, towards keeping them sustainable, and driving growth in future. So we come to these ESG criteria. First of them, of course, is the environmental criteria. And please feel free to interrupt me at any point of time. So first of these is the environmental criteria. So environmental criteria basically measures how a company performs as a steward of nature. All of us, even the Priyadashini College of Engineering, the Lokmanya Tilak Shikshan Sansthan, Vivek Singh as an individual, Berkshire Hathaway as a corporation, all of us are stewards of nature. It is something that we have to understand, accept, and realize that we all have to take care of nature around us. If, of course, if we are responsible, we feel that we are responsible towards our future generations. And here the environmental criteria measures the contribution that a company makes towards climate change through greenhouse gas emissions, through wastewater emissions, through solid waste that it generates, and such things. So one aspect is how much is the greenhouse gas being emitted from the organization. And it is true not only for a production organization like my own company, which makes water purification equipment. It is equally true for an educational organization, because you would be using, if nothing else, electricity to cool your auditoriums, run air conditioning in your auditorium, for instance, and that leads to emission of greenhouse gases. So each and every organization, whether it is a industry, whether it is a social organization, educational institute, even if it is a marriage hall, all of them contribute towards greenhouse gas emission. And one of the important criteria is measurement of this greenhouse gas emission. How do you manage the waste that is generated? And again, this is not about an industry. It boils down to your own household. Do you segregate the waste in your house? Do you segregate it into biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable waste, and hazardous waste and non-hazardous waste? It boils down to each and every individual. And of course, at the corporate level, it is very clearly identified. There are norms from Central Pollution Control Board and State Pollution Control Board and environmental protection agencies on how your waste is managed. Energy efficiency. Again, if you are using air conditioner to cool a certain premise in your organization, or if you are using pump to pump a certain liquid in your organization, how efficient is your system, how efficient is your process, as far as energy utilization is concerned. Very much important is not only that we measure how much we are spending in energy or how much carbon we are contributing. It is equally important to know whether we are making conscious efforts to keep reducing the contribution that we are making. And one important standard, global standard in this matter is ISO 14001, which is about environmental management. And certification of ISO 14001 means that you are making conscious efforts towards all 3-4 items which we have listed up. So the next criteria here is social criteria. So this is about how a company manages relationships with its employees, with its suppliers, with its customers, and with the communities where it operates. So what is measured over here is, does the company respect human rights? Now, it is very easy for, very difficult rather for a company in our own social and national settings to imagine how human rights can be violated by an organization or a company. But not far from us, there are poorer countries where corporations, multinational corporations and even national corporations work very unscrupulously, using bonded labor, using child labor, forcing people to work for them and such stuff. So human rights, labor standards, not only in our own organization, but in our supply chain. We may not be, sacrificing on labor standards in any way. But if we have a coal-fired boiler in our premises, and that coal-fired boiler uses coal that has been dug by using unscrupulous labor, underpaid labor, then that becomes a social criteria on which we don't justify our existence as a socially responsible organization. Exposure to illegal child labor. Now, I don't know how many of us know about it, but child labor is a very serious problem even in developed countries and in developing countries like our own. I'm not even talking about simple child labor, which is being shown on the televisions as domestic labor and all. I'm speaking about children who are used for mining, children who are used for trafficking and such stuff. So exposure to illegal child labor, one example of illegal child labor is the use of child labor in mica mining. And mica we see as a very innocuous chemical. However, mica is a chemical that is used by almost every one of us present here who has used makeup in any way. So mica is an essential part of all the makeup that we use, so-called glowing makeup, and a lot of it boils down to use of illegal child labor in mining of mica. So this is just an example of the social criteria that we have to look at when we are evaluating a company on ESG criteria. And do we adhere to workplace health, safety, and well-being when we run our organization? And this is not only about forcing people to work in unsafe atmosphere on a shop floor. This could be something as simple as asking a worker to paint a hoarding 50 feet high and not providing him with safety gear. So it is something as simple as that. Does our organization look for all these things and take conscious efforts to reduce any of these malpractices? Third and the most important criteria, far more important than the environmental and the social criteria, is the governance criteria. How is an organization governed? What are the set of principles that the organization has itself on, and how does the organization evaluate itself against the principles that it propounds? So this will deal with companies or the organization's leadership. It will deal with how the executives in the organization pay themselves, how many audits and what audits do they conduct on their own behavior, on their own performance, what are their internal controls, what is their external oversight, who are the shareholders in that organization, are these shareholders having any right in running the organizations, and all these stuff. This is important because profit is important, and many organizations in the world will follow unscrupulous deals and how to say shaded paths to profit. So principles defining the rights and responsibilities of the not only the employers but the employees, not only the stakeholders and shareholders but also the society in that organization becomes a very important criteria. And as you should understand that the profit is a very how to say very lucrative term, and the interests of the organization may lie towards maximizing these profits at any other cost. And it is there that the corporate governance system becomes important on understanding how these profits are being made and what is the balance that the organization is striking between its various stakeholders. Essentially, they are part of a company's long-term strategy on how that company will perform and behave, say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. So these are the criterias, but who are the people who evaluate others on these criterias? So ESG audits are conducted by firms that go by names like SGS and Deloitte and KPMG. There is also a similar audit called SMETA audit by an organization called SIDEX in France. All these organizations conduct ESG audits for the corporations. Now, if I were a large multinational corporation, I would have, of course, gone for, say, Deloitte or KPMG as an auditor. But there are smaller agencies who conduct ESG audits. It would not be wise of us to, have a very theoretical understanding of what these criteria are unless we understand how these audits are done and what is a typical audit scorecard looking like. So we at Filtrex were audited by an organization called Water Quality Association of the United States. And we were audited for our sustainability practices. And this is one of the score sheets of that particular audit. And you will see what kind of titles are there for evaluation. You will not find technology or engineering being evaluated. It is taken care of when you do your production. You want to be as profitable as possible. What is evaluated in sustainability and green initiatives and sustainable development is, do you use child labor? Do you have a written policy against child labor? Do you have forced labor policy? What is your health and safety policy? Do you make it compulsory for labor to come? Can you terminate them freely at your will, or do you give them notice? Do you support human trafficking? Those are the criteria on which a sustainable development is evaluated. Look at that very small fine print over there. What does it say? Does your facility have adequate first aid capability on site? And this does not mean that can you put small tape on a cut or lotion on a burn. It means, do you have a recovery room on your facility? Can you provide a person place to lie down? Do you have ambulance on your facility to take that person to the nearest hospital? Do you have means of communication from your work areas to your control room? Do you have tie up with a local hospital where your people will be given immediate priority in casualty? All those things are evaluated. So in the first audit, in 2016, you show that you have a first aid, and they say, okay, this is good, but we want more. So in the next audit in 2017, you show that you have a recovery room. In the third audit in 2018, you have to show that you have an ambulance. In the fourth audit, you have to show your agreement with local hospitals on taking those people. So these audits not only measure what do you have, but they also measure how are you improving on what do you have. Another example over here of the same thing is an organization's sustainability as far as environmental management is concerned. So there are, of course, total 100 points possible, out of which the organization which is certified for ISO 14000 will receive all 50 points without any further review. But just for the sake of it, we will see what a product sustainability consists of. Product sustainability can get you many points, out of which I am highlighting 4 points over here. Say they will receive 1 point each for the following part of their product design. Do you minimize in your product designing? Do you minimize the material and energy that you consume during the production process? And look at the very fine difference between the words. Here we are talking about during the production process. In the next point, they talk about during the use phase also. When you produce something, you consume some energy. But when you use it, you consume further energy. So it is like a refrigerator or an air conditioner with 2 stars or 3 stars or 4 stars on it. So do you produce material which consume less energy as compared to other material that consumes more energy? If you do, you gain extra points. Do you maximize, encourage, or endeavor to use the renewable or clean energy sources vis-a-vis fossil fuel? So what is your commitment to use of wind energy, geothermal energy, solar energy, and such stuff? So these are the points on which sustainability efforts are evaluated. And you can always score bonus points. How is your product packaged? Do you use plastic packaging or do you use recyclable paper? It will give you bonus points. How do you manage your supply chain? You could say that I am a very, very responsible producer of goods and services in case of non-goods producing organization. But down the line in your supply chain, your tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers, what do they do? Sometimes, like for example, let us take example of Lokmanya Tilak Sanstha itself. It might say that I am a very, very responsible, environmentally responsible organization. But who are your suppliers? The furniture manufacturer could be one of your suppliers. Now, a sustainable and environmentally responsible organization will ensure that the practices of sustainable development are followed not only in my organization, but in my supplier's organization as well. That my supplier also doesn't use child labor. My supplier also doesn't encourage bonded labor or is responsible towards his society, does not follow unscrupulous means of making profits and such stuff. And the goal of the of the matrix that we have seen, the criteria that we have seen, is that not only tier 1 supplier, but tier 2 suppliers are also taken care, and tier 2 suppliers are also evaluated. What is the end of life management? And Dr. Dhale Sahab was talking about this during his talk about e-wastes. So end of life of e-wastes is nasty. E-waste management is a challenge. It is a problem. Simple example of a tube light. How does a tube light work? There is mercury vapor in the tube light. How is the tube light disposed of? So using tube lights by themselves is not at all a sustainable development effort. Any organization that says that we are working for sustainable development should avoid using products like a tube light, which at the end of their life will lead to more pollution of the environment. Simple things like creation of wetlands. I'm writing here wetlands because we made a pond in our factory, but it could be forestation, tree plantation, such things, it will help you score bonus points in these criteria. Even something as simple as promoting carpools, because when one car comes to the office with 4 people instead of 4 cars with 1 person each, you are consuming less fuel, giving out less emission of carbon dioxide, reducing greenhouse gas emission. All that contributes. So remember these things. So Dr. Swarda at the beginning of this discussion said very specifically what are green initiatives, and we use a very concise terminology for that. That any specific operation or a business process that does not harm the environment or reduces the harm to the environment compared to the present process that we use is a green initiative. So creating an equivalent product made out of recycled materials can be a green initiative. And it is important again to note how you will measure the success of your green initiative or our green initiative, because it is everyone's initiative. One of the things that you can think of is, did it reduce the energy consumption? And if it does reduce the energy consumption, does it do it at the cost of the initiative itself? So you can say that I used to do a process A in which I would consume X amount of energy, and I am moving on to process B, which is consuming X minus Y amount of energy. But the process of moving from process A to process B should not involve an expenditure of more than the cost of initiative itself. Did it reduce water consumption? Again, vis-a-vis what is the cost of the initiative? Did it reduce the raw material consumption? What was the cost of doing that? If it is not about consumption of energy or raw material or other things, did it improve the lives of those in and around our facilities? So these are the impacts that we should measure when we say that we are taking up a green initiative. Unless the return on investment on the green initiative is more than the investment itself, it is not an economically viable investment. And the same is true for other ways of looking at it. Unless the lives of those in and around the facility are positively impacted by the initiative, it is not a socially viable initiative. An example that I can take is of metro train in Nagpur. It is a green initiative, and I would encourage the people who are participating in this workshop and in this lecture and in this course later on to look at such projects as a metro project or a thermal power plant project or a water reservoir project, and look at various aspects of that project, whether that project is a green initiative, whether that project is a non-sustainable initiative, what is it? So, like I said, metro is a green initiative because when the metro will be used eventually, a lot of people who are using their own individual automobiles will come down. It will reduce the greenhouse gas emission. It will improve the lives of people who cannot afford to buy a motor vehicle in the first place, and several other measurement criteria. So that is how we measure green initiatives. Sustainable engineering is a different ballgame altogether, because this involves a more holistic approach. It is not something which is done in isolation. Green initiative can be done in isolation because it is about a specific project. It is about a specific process in your entire value chain. Whereas sustainable engineering is something which affects everything around in the ecosystem of value. So it takes the entire production process and logistics into the consideration. So you may think that you have a green initiative to make the products out of recycled materials, for example. But if that original material that you are recycling now was made using environmentally harmful methods, it does not amount much towards sustainable engineering. So sustainable engineering, you have to look at how you source the material, how you use the material, how you uh, dispose the material. Is everything something which can be continuously improved upon? Can the energy efficiencies be brought down? How it will impact the society? How it will impact environment? Make a complete holistic picture, and only then you can evaluate how your sustainable engineering project is working out. What can we do to evaluate our sustainable engineering project? We should develop a process for evaluation of the entire value chain, right from when the idea is conceived to work is carried out, executed, and then regular usage of that specific thing starts. Entire thing from designing to production to usage, the entire life cycle. And then we should follow standard principles like RDMIC. So this is recognize that there is a problem, define it, define ways of improving on that particular problem, measure the improvement, analyze the effect of what we have done on what could have been achieved, and keep on improving and keep a very strict control. One very important thing for us to know is we should keep on learning. There is no standard textbook. Many a times in subjects like sustainable engineering, we make our own rules and we stick to them. But we have to keep a scope for doubt and reason and improvement in our own goals. We may think that what we will be doing is something great, but there are other perspectives. As I kept on saying all through this talk, this is about us. This is not about one person or one individual or one organization. This is about society in general. Sustainability has to be evaluated with the society, not in isolation from the society. So there will be other points of view. They will doubt. So we should have scope for their doubt and have reasons to explain them. Sustainable engineering is a live field. It is evolving even as we speak now. And I encourage all of you, whenever you do anything in your life, please ask yourself these questions. Is it profitable for me? Is it profitable for the society? Is it profitable for the environment? Always, always, always. Only then can we have a sustainable development done, and only then can we have a future generation that thanks us. What are the benefits of sustainability? Of course, it is very profitable. It reduces your energy and material costs. It attracts new conscious customers. Nobody wants to buy stuff that is tainted. I don't know how many of us remember the case of Gap jeans. Gap jeans was found to be made in facilities that use bonded labor and in some cases child labor. The impact was humongous. 136 plants of Gap were closed, or these were not plants owned by Gap. These were work contracts from Gap. 136 work contracts were closed. 42 in China, 42 in Southeast Asia, around 30 in India, around 10 in the Europe. They were closed. Gap jeans came very close to getting bankrupt because of customers who did not want to buy tainted goods. So that is just an example to keep in perspective. The government is giving a lot of tax incentives to make your business sustainable, to undergo sustainable development. It is a morale booster for the workforce and it is a fuel for innovation. Once you say that I want to change from existing process to a better process, it gives purpose to the workforce. It gives goals. It gives innovation ideas to the people, and it keeps on improving the process and people, and it impacts society in a very positive way. I thank you again for asking me to speak on this subject, and I would welcome if there are any questions.
Any questions from the participants? Participants, if you have any questions, because I saw some raised hands during his session was going on.
Yeah. Also, if
The questions could
not
not be asked due to
network problem,
problem,
then you
you
can
can
also
also type in the chat box. You can type the questions in the chat box. Those who had raised hands, please. I suppose there are no questions.
no questions.
Sir, thank you for that very interesting and insightful session. And I like the starting, which was the best example for all of us about the credit card and how we can think a very good example about sustainability and the credit card, which we use as a future money, we can use it. So that was the best example ever I had heard about sustainability. And I again thank you for coming here and sharing your expertise and your experiences and a very, very good session about sustainability. So
It is my privilege.
thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot to give us insight the need of sustainable development for present and future generation, utilization of future resources, beneficial aspect of sustainable development, and measuring criteria for ESG and their importance and requirement of its measurement. A small step towards success, sustainable development will also be a success for this one-day faculty development program from our side. Thanks a lot, sir. Now, towards the end of the inaugural function, I request Dr. Manju Soni ma'am, project coordinator, EGA, to give the vote of thanks. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to all. I take this opportunity as a project coordinator to put all my gratitudes into words. Very first, I would like to thank Dr. Vivek Singh sir for Vice President at Filtrex Technologies, who honored this inaugural function of FDP with his very wonderful speech on measuring sustainable development. Sir, this was a complete speech with a novel concept on how to measure and why to measure sustainability from industry point of view. So till date, we have undergone a lot of trainings on sustainability, but first time we are having this kind of session, how to measure and why to measure from industrial point of view. And I would like to have one more session of yours for our global partners. So we will definitely trouble you for this. Sir, thank you so much. No program of our institution can be completed with view and without having the presence of our very inspirational director of engineering, Dr. Vivek Nanoti, and team leader of this EGA project. Sir, thank you so much for all your guidance and support. And I always find him from the inspiration of Dr. Nanoti, sir. We all are very fortunate enough to have Dr. Dhali sir as a principal PC, an able administrator who was always supportive in and with positive attitude for organizing this kind of all FDPs. So thank you so much, Dhali sir, for being today with us for this function despite your all administrative assignments. I congratulate Dr. Swarda Mote Madam for organizing this FDP on wonderful concept of sustainable development and green initiatives by a very and inviting all the eminent speakers from NIRI to address this issue on the green initiatives. I also acknowledge the efforts taken by Dr. Ghatole and Dr. Kopular, the team member of EGA, Mr. Abdul sir, Mayuresh sir for all logistic support. And very important but not the least, all the participants of this FDP, I'm extremely thankful for them for joining this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. All the faculties, participants who are here in this faculty development program, all the participants in the faculty development program, we will be starting our technical session from 12:45. So you can have 2 to 3 minutes break. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all of you. And let us join for that session. Thank you, Dr. Vivek Singh sir, for
Thank
the
you.
inaugural.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
मॅडम ते यायचेच आहेत ना आल्यानंतर मग सुरू करू. All the participants, please join at 12:45. We will be starting our first technical session with Dr. Nitin Lapshetwar sir, a scientist from NEERI, at 12:45. We can have 2 to 3 minutes break and then we can again come here at 12:45. Please do not leave. We all are here to listen another more fruitful and good technical sessions.